Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive into everything, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a few different services. First of which is a Bitcoin savings account, so you can earn Bitcoin on your Bitcoin, paid in Bitcoin. You can also check out their Bitcoin-backed loans. This is where you can use Bitcoin as collateral for a Canadian or US dollar loan. So if you need to get your hands on dollars, but you're worried about selling your Bitcoin, maybe it's a bad time, well, this could be a solution for you. And finally, if you're a huge Bitcoin bull, you could check out their B2X offering, which is gaining you double the exposure to the price of Bitcoin. If you opt to get a Bitcoin-backed loan via the link below, they'll actually end up crediting your account with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin. So be sure to check that out. And secondly, if you're into Bitcoin, then of course, privacy is an important thing. And so one of the things that I regularly use on my phone and my computer is NordVPN. So what it does is it masks your IP address, it encrypts your browsing data, and it has a bunch of added other benefits like unlocking geo-block content. So if you can't access something from your country, simply just change your location from the NordVPN app and boom, that is unlocked for you. If you want to check out the link down below, you can end up saving 84%. It ends up being, last I checked, around $3.49 a month. So pretty damn good in my opinion. And with that, let's move on to the news. So this is a part, I guess I should scroll to the top here so you can see. So this is part of something from Lucas Nuzzi. I hope I'm not butchering that name. Anyways, he put out this thing on Medium, and it's a look at innovation in Bitcoin's technology stack. And the whole reason for this article that he put together was kind of like a clapback at anybody saying that Bitcoin is old technology and is failing to innovate or is stagnant. You hear this a lot from, people that are pumping other altcoins and whatever projects that they may be working on. And so Bitcoin has a very different approach, and that is to try and optimize as much as possible on the base layer and then defer more complex functions to secondary and tertiary layers. And so what he's done here is he has gone and mapped out he says not all, but a lot of the innovations that are happening on Bitcoin. So you can see here that he's kind of split it into 6 sections. So he goes into mining, privacy, smart contracts, performance and usability, layer 2, and side chains. And so for each of these, you've got, say, for smart contracts, they've got stuff like Mast and Taproot and scriptless scripts, simplicity, Ivy, HiveMind. There's a lot of stuff there. Performance and usability, you've got things like BTC Pay Server, Neutrino, Schnorr signatures. For layer 2, it's referring to stuff that people will be familiar with would be like Lightning Network and all the stuff, all the innovations happening there. But there's also the Omni layer, identity stuff with Microsoft Ion, data anchors for things like open timestamps. For side chains, the one that you guys will probably be more familiar with is Liquid. So you can issue assets on Liquid, which is a side chain of Bitcoin. There's also stuff like Rootstock, Drive Chains, and Elements. With mining, there's a ton of stuff happening with Fiber, BetterHash, Stratum, mining derivatives. And then with privacy, of course, there's CoinJoin. I always talk about Wasabi on this channel. There's, of course, Samurai with their zero-link protocol. But there's other stuff. There's stuff like Dandelion. There's confidential transactions, which is actually part of Liquid Network. There's CoinSwap. There's Bulletproofs and Tumblebit, which are off of those previously the aforementioned things. So there's a lot happening, and he actually goes to great lengths to kind of dive into what's happening in each of these subsets that he's discussed here. One other thing I wanted to point to, we've talked about Lightning, and there's been some metrics around how Lightning channels are there used to be a lot and they're starting to decrease, but actually the number that's decreasing when it comes to Lightning channels is the public channels. And with recent research, it stands to reason that around 41% of all Lightning channels channels are actually private and not visible to the rest of the network. So just another point on the growth of innovation around Bitcoin, allowing for privacy on top of Bitcoin and quicker transactions and instant settlement and all of that. I encourage you to give this a good read through. It'll give you a much better picture of all of the innovation that is happening that you may not see on its head. You see things like wallets and exchanges and things like that, but you don't necessarily see the infrastructure behind it as it's being built. It's much harder to see until there's like a front-facing product for people to use, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So, and to move on and kind of hearken to that fact, so this is BTSE or BTSE is what they're called. So this is an online exchange, and they've just integrated Blockstream's Liquid, so you can get LBTC, which is liquid Bitcoin, provably pegged to Bitcoin itself, but it allows for a few additional functions like quicker settlement times between institutions, and it also allows for confidential transactions. So again, to the privacy point, you can send confidential transactions via Blockstream Liquid. It also allows for issued assets, and so they've integrated USDT via Blockstream's Liquid as well. So just to add in a couple quotes here, so from Samson Mount, who I did interview and we dove into Liquid quite a bit. So I'll include that interview down below, but this is his quote here. "We're very excited that Liquid Bitcoin and Liquid USDT are available on BTSE. With BTSE integration, we now have a corridor between Bitfinex and another large cryptocurrency exchange, which he doesn't name, with billions in monthly trading volume. This is very good for traders looking for arbitrage opportunities." And arbitrage refers to when there's a difference in price between various exchanges. Sometimes you can buy on one and move it over to another and sell and kind of scalp that difference in the price if you see inefficiencies in the market. And so this will start to smooth things out and will actually start to eliminate some of those variances in prices, so we get kind of more of a global average that's a lot closer than some of the spreads that you're used to seeing from exchange to exchange. Now, further beyond this, in the same vein of innovation happening on Bitcoin, so Bitfinex, we talked about this the other day, but Bitfinex has added Lightning for deposits and withdrawals. So you can now go on Bitfinex, deposit and withdrawal with Lightning, but they've also integrated with Bitrefill, which is pretty awesome. So it looks like they've actually created kind of like a closed loop economy from within Bitfinex, where if you withdraw via Lightning Network, then you can pay for things like gift cards, you can top up your mobile, things like that, all through the Bitrefill portal here, which is great. So John Carvalho, who famously made Roger Ver flip out and flip him off, so he's working at Bitrefill, and he's been advocating for this and trying to build companies' Lightning strategies and kind of partner where he can with anybody that is looking to also build out this kind of infrastructure. So it's really cool to see this stuff start to come to fruition and see some real use cases for people that might want to utilize Lightning for actual transactional demand, or just in the case of Bitfinex, if you're withdrawing, just being able to withdraw or deposit to Bitfinex using the Lightning Network to defer fees. All of this stuff, Liquid and Lightning, both of them allow to take some of the pressure off of the main base layer protocol, off of the limited block space during times of congestion. And so I think this moving forward is going to help quite a bit. I'm very happy to see stuff like this. So let me know if you've played around with Liquid or Lightning yet, or both. You can check out Blockstream Green, the wallet there that allows you to actually utilize Liquid Bitcoin. Now you'd have to exchange it somewhere and get some, but yeah, it's worth playing around with. I played around with it myself just a little bit for a few bucks here and there. Yeah, it seems to work like a charm too. Moving on. Just some random news. There's been some huge movements of funds on the Bitcoin blockchain, particularly in referring to Bittrex, the Bittrex exchange. Somebody withdrew $313 million worth of Bitcoin, which amounts to 1/3 of Bittrex's reserves. Now, initially, people were a little worried about this. They thought, well, is this a hack? What happened? But Bittrex, somebody from their Twitter came out and said, yeah, no, this is legit. At least it appears to be legit on the face. Things could change, but there was also a further deposit later on of even more, which ended up being $415 million. So it appears as if whales are just being whales. Now, the interesting thing here is that that transfer of $313 million only cost $1. It was $1 to move 313 million. So again, you hear a lot about, oh, the fees are insane. The fees are insane. Are they though? I mean, Bitcoin is the most heavily used blockchain as far as actual transactional demand on chain in terms of US dollar value being moved around every day, and it's still with a lot of the efficiencies that have been implemented, it's still a buck to move $313 million. So yes, those transaction fees can fluctuate at times of high volume, but I still think we're doing pretty damn well. And with Liquid and with Lightning, that further helps things. So kudos to all of those innovating on Bitcoin. I'm very happy to see how things are going. Moving on to, I guess, less positive news, maybe. So Bakkt is Bitcoin futures contracts that were meant to be fully backed by Bitcoin, settled in physical Bitcoin. So at the end of a speculation period, at the end of a contract, when somebody speculated on the future price of Bitcoin, when that contract is terminated, then typically you're supposed to be receiving or paying out in an actual physically settled Bitcoin. Well, it turns out that it looks like Bakkt is only backing their Bitcoin by around 37%. So it does seem to be leveraged. Now, there's nothing illegal about what they're doing. It's more just seems to be a bit of misinformation or a little bit of backpedaling and just changing what they're doing based on what the CEO had said before. So here is the quote here. Specifically with our solution, the buying and selling of Bitcoin is fully collateralized or pre-funded. As such, our new daily Bitcoin contract will not be traded on margin, use leverage, or serve to create a paper claim on a real asset. So basically the total opposite of what is now happening was promised not to be happening before the launch of Bakkt. So yeah, I guess it just kind of goes to prove, I don't know, bankers gonna bank, like how bankers are notoriously bad for resisting the urge to leverage the fuck out of everything they do. So yeah, I don't know. The one thing that I like about this is that if people get too risky with this and there's a rush to demand physical settlement, well, then an entity like this could really screw themselves. And Bitcoin, there's no lender of last resort. So people that are playing with this stuff are gonna have to be careful and not get caught with their pants around their ankles. Now, further to Bakkt, the CEO, the same one that I just quoted, Kelly Lafleur, she's actually been appointed to the U.S. Senate just as of recently, as of today, actually. So yeah, she's been appointed to the U.S. Senate, which means I believe she'll be vacating her spot at Bakkt. But hey, you got a Bitcoiner in the Senate. I guess that goes for something. That's a positive. I think it's an inevitability, right? Like like it's only a matter of time before just naturally there's more and more people becoming interested in Bitcoin, and inevitably some of them are going to be in government. And so that will probably be a growing trend in the coming years. We saw it with the Senate testimony when it came to Facebook and Libra, and there were a lot of people crapping all over Libra, while at the same time using it as a litmus test against Bitcoin and singing Bitcoin's praises because it's not controlled by a corporation. So I think people are kind of getting it. It'll be interesting to see how much this landscape changes over time as more Bitcoiners just happen to be in positions of power. We'll find out. Moving on, Andreas, speaking of power plays from banks, Andrei Vasanta was blocked or was, I guess, demanded by Intuit to basically stop talking about cryptocurrency on his website because he uses Intuit to accept payments via credit card. So here's what he said in a tweet. So he said, Intuit Merchant Services just told me that I can't be using crypto if I accept credit cards for my invoices. They asked me to remove crypto from my website. I instead elected to remove Intuit and their credit card services from my life. So I mean, it's... It seems like this is something that should have happened in like 2015, 2016, early on. To see companies still doing dumb shit like this, where they're like, oh, you're talking about Bitcoin on your website? Oh, well, we can't have that. You're going to have to not talk about that anymore if you want to use credit cards. But I mean, kudos to Andreas for just saying, no, I'll just not take credit cards anymore. I guess... what else are you going to do? You can't not talk about Bitcoin when that's pretty much your job. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, have you guys run into this type of stuff, either personally with your banking or as a business? If you're in that kind of realm, have you run into that? I know I sure have, mostly in relation to work, but it's I guess still early days. And just another point to that kind of line of thinking here. This is really unfortunate, and this makes me angry. So there's a Danish court upheld Nordea Bank, I think that's how you say it. They banned their employees from owning Bitcoin. So they basically they filed a suit, the industry employees, the union for them, they filed a suit against Nordea Bank. They said, we filed a suit because of the principle that everyone obviously has a private life and the right to act as a private individual. It was important for us and our members to establish what rights managers have. In this case, it was more far-reaching than what we find to be appropriate. So they're basically saying, like, just because I work at a bank doesn't mean that me as a person on my own time outside of work hours in my home can't have a Bitcoin wallet with some Bitcoin in it. Why wouldn't I be allowed to do that? It's my own private my own private wealth. But they said no. Apparently this got upheld, and they're allowed to ban people from holding Bitcoin if they work for the bank. It's unfortunate. So this legislation ends up causing 31,500 people that have to now distance themselves from cryptocurrency investments of any sort. Oddly enough, it doesn't count. Where was it? Oh, God. It does not apply to financial instruments associated with digital currencies Nordea had sold to customers. So they sold to customers, but they're not allowing oh my God, as well as any cryptocurrency that employees might have invested in before the restrictions. So if they invested before and that was all good, then that's fine. But currently you can't. And it also doesn't apply, when we sold it to people. Like, fuck you. This is the hypocritical nature of banking. This is like the beacon of exactly what is wrong with the current system. And I'm going to wrap up with one little story that I got brought to my attention today. Thank you, Dave, for sending this over to me just before I recorded. Anyways, in Canada here, a Labrador-based Bitcoin miner goes bankrupt, owing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. So one of the points that my friend brought up was, why would you do this in Labrador? Like, there's excessive taxes there. It's like 15% when it comes to like GST and PST combined. But also, it's not looking good. So they filed bankruptcy documents last month. The company said that they had $13.2 million in liabilities with only $4.6 million of assets. So yeah, getting close to $8 million in the hole. It doesn't help that they had creditors, that uninsured creditors, both private and government, that were just lending them money out the ass, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it looks like they're just not gonna get that money back. They were also sued in 2017 by a Bitcoin-based mining firm, and that's totally unresolved so far. But I don't know, like, mining is very, very competitive, and it just kind of seems like these guys were so early. Like, it came out of like basically a basement operation that just built up out of nowhere. It seems like these guys got in early, thought that they could kind of weather the storm and that they were experts just because they were early. But then as the operation grew, it just got out of hand. They got tons of handouts and basically free money early on, which allowed them to kind of just like it was like a slow bleed until eventually shit just hit the fan and they had to close up shop. But I mean, definitely the handouts and like all the loans and all the money that they got from other people allowed this operation to limp on for way longer than it should have. So I mean, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, this is Bitcoin mining in a nutshell. If you're not super efficient, if you're not finding the most efficient, cost-effective ways of powering your machines, and you don't have the best equipment, well, you're going to go under. It's a matter of time. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to say to that. It sucks, but at the same time, Bitcoin seeks out the most efficient operations, and it will continue to do so and become more and more competitive. So if you're looking for cheap mining equipment, then you might be able to scoop some up from these guys. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys very much for watching. Of course, hit like, subscribe, and share. Always hit share. It is great to have more people watching. If you want to help the show in another way, you can hit up the sponsors Nord or Ledn down below. Those links are in the show notes. And of course, check out Wasabi Wallet. It's always good to have some privacy with your Bitcoin and break your links between you and your coins. You never know what kind of prying eyes are trying to check out your financial situation. And finally, if you really like what you saw, you can hit me up with a Bitcoin Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page. With that, I am out. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will see you tomorrow for your daily session.